Well, hey everybody, Jarmethlin here with a real honest rant about wrestling fandoms. Mainly the people in said wrestling fandoms that can't tell the difference between a fact and an opinion, and just the fact that people are entitled to their opinions. Now, I do want to say that there are plenty of fandoms out there, especially the entirety of a wrestling fan, the wrestling fandom, all wrestling fans, if somebody calls it fake, we attack them and we make them, realize that, oh no, it's not fake. Predetermined, sure, fake, oh fuck you, it's not. Now, that's great when wrestling fans can come together like that. And there's plenty of music fandoms, movie fandoms, whatever, comic book, video games, it doesn't really fucking matter. Anime, I mean, I'm sure there's a whole ton of stuff. I'm not as into, outside of movies and some music, I'm not as into it, into all that stuff as everybody else. Political, fandom, whatever. The whole point is there are so many fandoms for every single thing, and there are plenty of good people that actually love, say, just going back to wrestling, that love certain wrestlers, want to know more about their lives, love them, they gravitate towards them. Like me, I love Bret Hart. I admit that Bret comes across as bitter, and that I totally can understand why some people don't like him, but I will still defend him, with every last breath that I have, because he is one of my favorite wrestlers. Now, do I respect other people's opinions that they don't like him? 100%. You know why? Because I'm a reasonable human being with a functioning brain, which apparently some of you guys don't fucking have. I tweet out something. It was from my friend Noah, and it was something about some tweet, and I don't remember what the fuck it was, but something to do, basically a Kelly pic got shared. I think it had something to do with sleep. And I said, well, my sleep schedule doesn't botch nearly as much as she does. Good God, you would have thought that I would have shot somebody on camera. Good fucking grief. People are upset, calling me all kinds of names. People that I've never even fucking heard of, because I stated that Kelly botches. Is she the only wrestler that botches? No. But because she was featured and I said that, God forbid, it's like I did the worst thing in the goddamn world. Let me make it clear, I got nothing against Kelly as a person. All I did was make a joke. People are taking the jokes too literally. I got a laugh out of it. Actually, if anything, that's pretty low on the totem pole of anything that I've seen, people say. And it doesn't matter if you can piss off the Shield fans, you can piss off, there's so many fandoms. I pissed off Naomi fans because I said that I didn't think she was as good as other people said she was. Now, is Naomi a good athlete? Yes. Is she good? Is she good in the ring? Yes. Has she made the most out of what they've given her, which hasn't been much over the past couple years? Yes. So I'm not the biggest fan of her, but I can totally see why people are. And I'm certainly glad that my opinion changed on her, just as an example. But there are, going to company fandoms, getting off the whole thing of just singular wrestlers. Impact fanboys go at war with WWE, or WWE going at war with Impact fanboys, or Ring of Honor and New Japan, fans going at each other, despite the fact they have a working relationship, and you can't really have one without the other, though New Japan, I think, could thrive more than Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor, despite all that funding, still needs some help. But that's my take on it. And then you got people that are like, oh, I only watch indie wrestling, and if they go to WWE, I'm not going to be fans of them anymore. Or if they're in WWE, oh yeah, I followed their career for the whole damn time, and they haven't. They couldn't name 2 damn matches that they did outside the company. But some, you become fans of them after they get to WWE, and you study more of their stuff back, before they got into the company. That's great. Or somebody goes to New Japan. Oh, hey, I've been watching New Japan. I haven't seen this guy, but I heard the name. Start watching. Okay, I can see why people like this person. Or Stardom, or Joshi Pro Wrestling. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Joshi. Sorry if I mispronounced that. The whole point is women's wrestling in Japan. Okay? Like, Stardom in particular is one I'm going to focus on. There are plenty of women that have worked there over the years and everything, and people are like, hey, well, we need to have, and this is another thing, a discussion I've had with people, and by the way, this is not directed at you guys, but people that are fans of Japanese wrestling, but it's like, I can't watch New Japan because they don't have women's wrestling, and they have had women's wrestling in the past. It's been years, but they've had women's wrestling in the past. For whatever reason, they don't have women's wrestling now. I'm not totally sure on all the reasons. I would have to do some study on that. Please link something in, the comments if there is a reason why. If the bookers just simply don't want to do it. I don't know if there's any darker reason, but the whole point is, there are some that, have dogged me for watching New Japan because, well, you claim to support women, in wrestling, and New Japan doesn't have women's wrestling. Now, I would totally understand your guys' point, and again, I've talked to some people, you guys are cool, but others that just don't seem to get it. I appreciate the athleticism, the realism that is displayed in New Japan. Would it be nice if they included women's wrestling? Sure, on some of their maybe on some of their smaller cards to gauge interest. But example, Stardom and others, Stardom and I'm sure there are others, have drawn big crowds in Korakuen Hall, which is really, I think, can only fit like maybe 2,000 people, maybe 1,500, 2,000 people. But is a storied, building with a lot of rich history and everything. Stardom and other companies are, drawing fans in there and getting some big crowds. But still, people are like, oh, well, you're a New Japan fan or whatever, you don't support women's wrestling. Fuck you guys, I do. I would like to see them co-promote and everything, but I don't know if that's going to end up happening. But I just find it funny that at first I got hammered for, and I haven't really gotten necessarily hammered once I display my opinion or state my opinion that I fully support women's wrestling. I don't want other companies to die just so the women can be on the first or second match. If all women's promotions can work with New Japan and vice versa, and maybe with All Japan, I mean, I'm not as familiar with current All Japan as I was in the 90s. Bigger companies working with, the women's promotions would be great, but the women's promotions are drawing big interest, are still, are getting big crowds, bigger crowds than, even some of the all women's promotions here, like Shimmer and Shine, even though they've gotten some decent crowds. There's so much great wrestling to go on that I don't understand why we need to have this divisiveness among some fans. And then there are some, oh, they're in Stardom, they went to WWE, they're going to be ruined. I right here will state that I thought for, that I have thought for months and months and even a few years, especially with the NXT format and everything, and people being called up from NXT, that a vast majority of people have been ruined. Now, not everything, and Vince said this in a podcast, I think it was the Austin podcast, that not everything that works in NXT is going to work on the main roster. And that is probably the last intelligent thing that he said. And it was probably scripted as hell and probably got drilled into his head. I mean, somebody would have sneezed it at him, but then he would have fired that person for sneezing because Vince hates sneezing. Vince, what the fuck is wrong with you? Vince's weirdness about sneezing aside, there have been plenty of people that have been called up from NXT that have succeeded, that weren't going to succeed much in NXT and got called up to the main roster. Elias is probably the one that didn't have that much success in NXT that has gotten hugely over on the main roster, and it's great because Elias is a star. Now, they need to let him display his ability in the ring more, or otherwise he's just going to be seen as a bit of a sideshow act, no matter how over he is and how great he is, and how much better he's gotten with the guitar. But Elias's fandom, I don't have as much of an issue with. Because I like Elias, and I think, his fans are reasonable. They just want the best for him. And by and large, 95% of fandoms just want what's best for their favorite wrestler. But then they also, and Daniel Bryan said it best, they become fickle. People are great in NXT. Yay, I'm happy to see him in NXT. 3 months later, I fucking hate him. I don't want him here. Why did I ever cheer for them? And seriously, I have seen people do that. But back to NXT. There are too many people that do get called up that don't get utilized all that well. And it's not even right off the bat. It's after months and months, and some that don't even get used well. Sanity and everything, and Nikki Cross did not get used well for a goddamn long time. Sanity did not get used well for about a year before they disbanded. I mean, that right there is pretty ridiculous. Now, are they the only ones? No. The Vaudevillains were ones that didn't really get used all that well. Lucha Dragons were sort of over. I mean, Ascension. And it's mainly tag teams because Vince hates tag team wrestling. Bo Dallas is somebody they could have used a whole lot better. They didn't. But that aside, now I'll actually touch on that in NXT brand rant at some point. But with a lot of fandoms, so many of them are quick to turn on their favorites, and it frustrates me. Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch needs to get opportunities. Becky Lynch needs to get opportunities. She wasn't doing all that much in 2017. She hasn't been doing all that much in 2018 and everything, and so far and everything. Oh, she, gets a shot. Charlotte beats Carmella. No, Charlotte beats Becky. with Carmella in the ring also, because Carmella was also there as SmackDown Women's Champion. Remember that? I wish I didn't. But then, so Charlotte wins, and then Becky snaps, turns heel, crowds cheering wildly and everything. They cheered wildly, mostly wildly when she wins at Hell in a Cell. And then they had the great match at Evolution. And then the whole face-breaking thing happens with Nia because she's a careless twat that can't wrestle. Hopefully she recovers from her knee injuries, but she's a careless twat that can't wrestle. Sorry, Nia fans, she's not any good in the goddamn ring. That doesn't mean that you guys can't think that, but I'm not going to fucking think that. But the face-breaking thing, and then Becky comes back, they had the Becky, Asuka, Charlotte thing. The whole point is, Becky was over, even after tapping out to Asuka at the Royal Rumble, wins the Royal Rumble. They kind of, fucked up that whole thing with how they did that. They should have just had Charlotte and Becky co-win it. But then, they fucked up her momentum. She was still over. And ever since Mania, even before Mania, people were starting to turn on her. Oh, I'm sick of this. After months and months and months of these same stupid, fickle motherfuckers saying Becky deserves an opportunity. It's no wonder. And look, I'm a prime example of somebody that has been fickle on some. I used to like Baron Corbin, mainly in NXT. I don't anymore. I haven't for a few years because I just find him boring. Does that mean I want anything bad to happen to Baron Corbin or I want it? No. I get fired up in my tweets if I don't want anything bad to happen to the person. The person seems pretty nice. The wrestler, he's decent in the ring. He does a lot of chin locks. I find him boring on the mic. But there are plenty of people to like him, and that's great. I'm not going to tell people that are Baron fans that they're bad. I'm not going to tell people that are fans of anybody that are bad. There were fans of Eva Marie, somehow, that think that, she deserved the opportunities she got. She didn't, because she wasn't any good, but she at least tried to get better in the ring. Better than Sable. I never understood how Sable had fans. But going back to the whole thing about being fickle. So Becky gets this opportunity. Now she's Becky 2 belts. She may retain it, Money in the Bank. She may not. I'm recording this 2 weeks before Money in the Bank, so by the time this goes up, who the fuck knows? She could have already lost both titles. I doubt it, but she could have lost both titles. So many other, Charlotte has been pushed and pushed and pushed because she is a really good athlete. There are so many other women that, are great in the ring or, are at least adequate in the ring. And some of their fans blow up their shit, though, especially when they say they're great in the ring. They're great in the ring. There are fans that are going to hate me. I did a recent rant about AJ Lee and Alexa Bliss not being that good in the ring because they aren't. But that's also my take. That doesn't mean that their fans are bad. That doesn't mean that either of those fandoms are wrong. I may not agree with them, but that's just, how I'm presenting my case. With so many fandoms, it's like going back to the Naomi one. I got so much hate for just saying that Ember Moon was more interested in Naomi. But look at when Ember Moon debuted, and then when they finally gave Naomi a gimmick change, and she finally was allowed to go out and have fun and have a cool entrance and everything, and become SmackDown Women's Champion a couple times. Should have just been the one time. She shouldn't have had to have given it up. But only 30-day defense clauses only apply to people that aren't named Brock Lesnar. Speaking of which, Brock Lesnar fans, I know that you like the guy. I don't. I'm sick of him. He needs to go away. But that doesn't make the fans wrong. There are people that are fans of part-timers being champions. Congratulations. I do not agree with you. That's okay if you guys think that way. It is what it is. I'm not going to fault you guys. I don't agree at all. I think it is a detriment to the company, no matter what company it is. But there are people that think that it's a good idea. Or that don't mind it. If you don't mind it, that's fine. You can see it as an entertainment product if you want. But it is what it is. But so many ways, like the Alexa Bliss fans. Oh, she deserves all these opportunities. She's got plenty of opportunities, and I hate to say it, for being adequate in the ring at best, she probably needs to stop getting these until she can stop getting injured. And not just her, because there are plenty of others that, plenty of other people that keep getting injured and aren't afforded those opportunities. Finn Balor injured his shoulder right after becoming Universal Champion, and guess what they've done with him? Yeah, they made him Intercontinental Champion. Yes, he is still featured well, but Vince doesn't see him as anybody that could be a top guy. He just sees money in Brock Lesnar. Now, he has, and Vince, and this is going to go to another thing. Yes, Vince is a fickle individual. Vince is probably the most fickle individual that there is in wrestling, period. Because he will change his mind on the goddamn fly. But But there are times where it's justified because look at the stuff with Kofi. Mustafa Ali gets injured. People are getting behind Kofi. They put Kofi in the spot because Mustafa Ali got injured and unfortunately wasn't able to be at Elimination Chamber. I hate to say it, it would not have ended with Ali becoming WWE Champion. I just can't imagine that Vince would have done that. I would have loved to have seen it, and maybe we'll see it at some point. Who knows? Maybe he wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. Probably not, but it is what it is. Won't be allowed to go to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia's government are shit people. Granted, the current government here is shit people, so maybe I really have no room to talk, but at least bone saws aren't used in negotiations that we're aware of. But moving on from that, with Ali, he got injured. Kofi got put in the spot, and people were getting behind Kofi. 11 years, 11 years. Did you know it's taken him 11 years to become WWE champion? WWE's mentioned it once or 5 million times. I get that that's the whole point of it, but it started to become nauseating and kind of be a detriment to Kofi. But Kofi's had legions of fans for a while. I've been a fan of Kofi since I first saw him when he was in ECW, the WWE version of ECW, when he beat Chris Jericho on, I believe, his main roster pay-per-view debut in 2008, became Intercontinental Champion. Kofi's great. Kofi has been great. Should have been WWE Champion back in 2009, 2010, probably 2010, because that's about when it probably would have culminated. But that didn't happen because Orton, stupid, the immature little shitbag that he is, decided to do that. But Kofi kept around, finally became champion. People were happy. And my God, it was like that. And people were starting to turn on, oh, he's not really championship material. Look, once Kofi won, to me, the bloom is off the rose. I think that he's going to be a short-term champion. But that doesn't mean I don't respect the man for winning, for, becoming champion, for working hard, for taking the ball and running with it, especially since it wasn't originally supposed to be his push. Who the fuck knows what they would have done? Probably would have put New Day in with the Shield for their final chapter ever, and then do it 18 more times. But no, wait, they weren't Drew, Corbin, and Lashley. So how could they have done that? They weren't those, they weren't that one interesting guy, and Corbin and Lashley. And I like Lashley, but he hasn't been very interesting for a while. But he loves his sisters. So, back to the whole thing though. Kofi now is like, people are like sick of it. It's like chewing a piece of gum. Oh, flavor's gone. I'm going to throw it away and get another piece. Oh, it's a different piece. I like this better. They instantly forget about what they chewed right there. They instantly forget about how much they loved that stuff before. Oh, I have this great movie and everything, and I love this movie, and I love this movie, or I love this video game, I love this. You get something new, and you push it right to the side. Something that you had invested so many hours in. Now, that's consumerism. That's wrestling. That's video games. That's whatever. Movies, it doesn't matter, in a nutshell, or songs, or this kind of stuff, or you move on from fandoms and you were a fan of somebody for about a year, and then you totally forget about them and stop becoming a fan. You say, well, I was never a fan of them before, and yet you have evidence, like on your social media or whatever, that you were fans of them. Like, I have changed my opinions on wrestlers for the better and for the worst. Some I like, some I don't like. But a lot of fandoms that I've dealt with, by and large, I actually really appreciate all the cool people I've interacted with, because I'm just a wrestling fan. I love it. I love talking to all other wrestling fans. Whether I agree or disagree with what people said, it doesn't mean I can't have a good conversation with them. Doesn't mean you can't have a good conversation with me. There are people that are big fans of Alicia Fox. I admire what she can do in the ring. I'm not her biggest fan, but there are plenty of cool people out there that are fans of her, and that's great. And does she deserve more opportunities? Yeah, considering she was only champion once in 2010, might not hurt to make sure she's got her head on straight, that hopefully, she has entered rehab. Anything she's had to do to work out her issues has been worked out, and she can get back to championship prominence. But she's an example of one, like, where WWE's just, used her up like a tissue and thrown her away, cast her to the side. Or she's like, she's like somebody that, they got a new pet and everything, and then they were done with her after a year or two. And that's kind of where the whole thing goes back to NXT, and I'm actually going to touch on that in another video, but back to the fandoms. Too many fandoms are too fucking fickle, and they're too quick to attack for somebody's opinion. Now, if that person is attacking your favorite, and this is something I probably should have said near the beginning, but if that person is attacking your favorite, telling them to kill themselves, telling them to hurt themselves, saying, oh, I wish you get injured, I wish you die, I wish you did that, being mean, being belligerent and everything to your favorite, human being to human being, you should absolutely defend that person, even if you're not a big fan of them. I have seen many people say stuff about wrestlers I don't particularly like, and guess what? I'm not going to stand for that. There are certain ones that I will not defend, period. Lex Luger is one of them. Superstar Billy Graham is another. Superstar Billy Graham should have never gotten that liver at fucking all because he didn't deserve it and has just been a bitter jackass that wants Kofi Kingston to put roids in his body. Good job, Superstar Billy Graham. Let Kofi do the same thing that ruined your career because you were a talentless hack that was just a promo. And roids. That's all you were, you stupid, bitter shell of an old man. But too many fandoms are so ready to attack and get upset because somebody just doesn't like their favorite. Now, if they're being belligerent, they're saying, I want this, fucking insert wrestler here to go away, get injured, or die. Okay, yes, then you have a right to, get upset and everything, take arms, get the pitchforks, get the torches and everything. Maybe not burn their house down, but get upset because you don't burn your house down. Yes, you don't burn it down because you know why? That is arson. Seth Rollins, stop promoting arson. Seth Rollins' arson fetish aside, there are plenty of people, though, that do take it too far. I've had Impact fans get upset at me. Why you don't watch Impact or whatever? Why won't you watch Impact? So I'm just going to state it right here why I don't watch Impact, because there are people that are wondering. I used to watch Impact for years and years and years. I own plenty of TNA DVDs that I got in their brown bag specials that they did when they were doing a warehouse clearance. If they do another one of those coming up, I will probably get more, because the DVDs, especially the older stuff, are really, really good. Now, yes, there are some of the newer ones that I don't particularly like, though I admire a lot of the talents. I don't like Josh Matthews. I don't think Don Callis is all he's cracked up to be. I don't really like them necessarily as a commentary duo. Now, I'm sure that there are other people doing commentary, and that's great. They're doing a lot of good shit with a lot of people, knockouts and otherwise and everything. They'd have not a ton of momentum, mainly because they signed Michael Elgin, and I already stated my opinions on him. I don't like the guy. For a variety of reasons, and you can Google what they are and you'll figure it out, Michael Elgin scandal. But there are a few reasons why I won't watch Impact. Also, it comes down to time. I'm reviewing WWE and New Japan. I don't even get to review as much New Japan as I would like because it's on in the morning and I work a whole lot and I have a bunch of other content that I'm doing. So I watch probably about 60% of the New Japan content I want to. But I review everything that I can. Same with WWE. WWE is a convenience at this point. It is something that drives views on the channel, but I'm a fan. I was a fan of WWE from 4 years old, so even though I hate a good amount of what's going on, I'm still gonna watch it. And that's why I like being a wrestling fan, though, because I love interacting with so many goddamn people. There are plenty of people to wonder why I don't watch Ring of Honor. Comes down to timing. Why aren't you fans of these wrestlers? Why aren't you fans of other people? Because I'm not. But that doesn't mean that other people can't be fans of them. Like, if you're a fan of Impact, great. If you're a fan of Ring of Honor, great. If you're a fan of WWE, great. If you're a fan of New Japan, All Japan, Stardom, the British scene, I don't know a lot of the company, Progress is one of them. ICW? Or is that the one in Scotland? Whole point. You're a fan of AAA or CMLL. If you're a fan of Lucha Underground, I don't think they're going to be around much more. But if you're a fan of Stardom, well, I said Stardom already. Shine, Shimmer, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours. AEW, even though right now Double or Nothing hasn't happened yet, doesn't matter. Or you're a mixture of all those, or you love the Canadian independents, or you love your local independents, or you love your stuff that you can catch from all around the world, streaming services and all that. It doesn't matter what you're a fan of. If you're a fan of wrestling, be a fucking fan of wrestling. But understand that not everybody's going to like what you like, and just because I'm saying this and you're just listening to me basically talk out of my ass, because that's pretty much what the channel is, it's just a wrestling fan, me, talking and just having fun, that doesn't mean that you have to get upset at people. Now, you could say, okay, just curious, why don't you like this person? Have a discussion with them, that's fine. But so many are so quick to just jump down each other's throats, and don't get me wrong, I do it too, I get upset. But I also try to engage with people because there are people that I follow on Twitter, that follow me, that comment on this channel that I don't always agree with. And you know why? Because we have different opinions. We're not part of a collective hive mind. Being a fan, being part of a fandom doesn't mean you can't have your own brain. It doesn't mean that everybody has a Futurama brain slug on their head, which, sorry to say, that's still something funny, to me. I don't know how that brain slug got through Hermie's hair. And if you know what I mean, congratulations, you're just as much of a nerd as I am. But with wrestling fandoms, some of them get out of control, and if you don't stop getting out of control, you're just gonna be laughed at. Stop being jackasses all the goddamn time. Now, I mean, I could take my own advice, but I've always been a jackass, and that's how I'm always going to be. I will, however, not tell people they can't be fans of certain people, even if some are fans of Lex Luger and stuff like that, and I'm never a fan of Lex Luger, or Honky Tonk Man, or a few others, or people currently, or whatever. If you're a fan of Nia Jax, Tamina, Baron Corbin, Jinder, example of some people I currently don't like, that's fine. If you're a fan of Michael Elgin, that's fine. If you're a fan of Chase Owens, that's fine. Chase, by the way, way up here, Elgin way down here, because Chase, as far as I know, isn't a creep. But if you're, just because I'm not a fan of somebody, if you're a fan of them, great. But if people are going to constantly just, be idiots when it comes to being a fan, be stupid, be all whatever, yeah, you're going to get laughed at, and you're going to give wrestling fans a bad name. Don't be a stupid wrestling fan. Be an intelligent wrestling fan. Get fired up, get passionate and everything. Cheer your favorites, boo the ones that you can't stand. And be fired up about it, and go after the fans, or go after the people, rather, that say wrestling's fake. Predetermined, not fake. But if you're just going to go after people because they just don't like your favorites, and you're going to tell them this, that, or whatever, and tell them to kill themselves and this kind of stuff, then you're just as toxic as the people that say wrestling's fake, in my opinion. You're just as toxic. Having a fired up take on wrestling, companies, wrestlers, whatever, style of wrestling. If you like deathmatch wrestling, I don't get it. But whatever. There are people that like Joey Ryan's wrestling. I have seen Joey Ryan wrestle, a few times on, some local indies. While I don't necessarily care for his, for everything that he does in the ring, it's also not for me. But he's a nice guy. I gain more of an appreciation seeing him live. Same with Priscilla Kelly. I had only briefly heard about her, saw her in the first, I believe it was Mae Young Classic. I think it was Mae Young Classic 2. I've seen her live multiple times. She's great. And that's another thing I'm going to finish up on, by the way. If whatever you're a fan of, also support your local indie wrestling in your area. Please do that. But that's it. I'm kind of running out of steam, so I'm going to let this go. So please tell me in the comments what you think. I can only imagine the comments I'm going to get here. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.